Repeat after me. It is not the job of the fans to maintain the fan base. Now, don't get me wrong, fans certainly have their place in raising awareness for a trading card game, spreading hype, teaching new players, and maintaining wikis and fan pages, but to place so much of your marketing reach on telling the fans to get out there and spread the word is irresponsible and lazy. It is up to you, the game developer, to not only produce a quality game that fans will get excited for, but to make sure that your game gets out there, and fan response is little more than a minor tool for that. There are other, more substantial ways to promote your game. A successful Kickstarter can be leveraged into meetings with the distributors who provide product for local game stores far more effectively than a store-by-store campaign. Proof of interest is important, but it is, again, something you need to earn. But beyond that is maintaining interest. Getting your games into stores is one thing, like with a marketing campaign and social media presence. Getting people into those stores to buy that game is another, and a lot of it relies on the social aspects of trading card games. Now, I know this might sound silly considering we are on year 2 of the friggin' apocalypse, but there was once a time where game stores actually had spaces with, like, tables and chairs and stuff set aside specifically for people to come and play games with each other. Wild, right? Man, I miss those days. And it's here where organized play comes into play. Man, I could have done that better. Hello and welcome to Errata Text, the follow-up to the 7 Deadly Trading Card Game Sins, where we look at the important aspects of game design. Organized play, as opposed to casual play, is a gaming format created and distributed by a game's developers where game stores host local events for players to gather at and participate in, often with special prizes that players can earn by winning tournaments, accumulating points, or simply as a reward for showing up to play. But, of course, a lot goes into organized play. It's an important tool to help a game catch the updraft of its early release hype. But here's the thing, while it's important that it must be quickly implemented and robust, it actually doesn't need to be that complex, at least not at first. So a quick warning before I go any further, I am going to be lifting the hood on organized play, and that might have the effect of removing some of the magic from it. So if you want to stay in the dark about what goes on behind the scenes with organized play, this might not be the video for you. We good? Okay. At the end of the day, organized play is a business transaction. It is an offer to stores. Host an event for our game at your store, and our fans will show up at your store to play at the event and buy our game from you. A local game store's time and space is limited, so you have to respect that and prove that your organized play is worth the trouble. Because here's something not everybody knows about organized play. While it's usually free for players to participate in, it's not free for the stores who host them. These organized play kits don't get sent to stores out of the goodness of the publisher's hearts. They have to pay for them on top of providing the time and space to play. The same applies to things like demo kits and the like. Most cost the stores money to have show up, even if they say they are free for players. Remember when I made that aside in the unmixable attributes sin where I glowered at the notion of players demanding that a store host organized play events while buying all of their cards from eBay? This is why. There are few things that a game store hates more than receiving demands from someone who never buys anything. It's one of the reasons draft play and release events are so popular. Participating in these events requires you to buy product after all. But that's not the only way to get people into stores. Most organized play also offers prize support, usually in the form of special cards and premium tokens, to more advanced kit like playmats, card boxes, and even little trophies and promo figures. Yes, I won these. I play games. I'm good at them. I win. I promise. This is what I mean by robust, but not complex. You don't have to launch your game with a championship point system and Grand Prix lineup all ready to go, merely enough structure to get people in the habit of playing your game in a store. Yes, it's also a habituation thing like a login bonus or a weekly coffee card, but hey, at least it's a social experience that brings people together. Now, when it comes to actually running these sorts of organized play programs, most companies tend to be a bit hands-off as to the event itself. Stores have their own ways of doing business, and running events that make them and their customers comfortable is not really your place to interfere. Most of the organized play kits I've gotten contain little more than instructions on how to run a Swiss tournament, with some exceptions for prize point distribution or order of card use for campaign-based games. And yes, this can include stores that charge money to participate in organized play. Like I've said, that's their prerogative, and the stores that I've been to that charge for their organized play events tend to provide a prize pool from the product they have for sale, integrating the promised sales directly into their tournaments, similar to those draft and release events I was talking about earlier. Pokemon's own event guides lay out the possibility of charging for play with the addition of store-provided prizes. You really don't need to squash this kind of behavior unless it becomes rampant and overpriced. Otherwise, there's little more than a need for accountability for the sets. Include a disclaimer on the order form and packaging that prohibits resale, and encourage retailers to take some snapshots of the event, such as people playing and the event winner for quote-unquote social media use, with the unstated purpose being to make sure that the kits are being used as indicated rather than just getting sold off. Which, yeah, I confess I might have done a bit of a naughty when I purchased these organized play kits. However, all of these kits are several years old, so it's not like I'm depriving other people the opportunity to play by purchasing these secondhand. So, with that out of the way, let's move on to the big question. Which organized play kit is right for you? As I said before, there are a lot of possibilities when it comes to how you structure your organized play support, but what matters in the end is that something exists to help encourage people to purchase their product in an actual store and continue to play your game. Now, while I'm sure you would love to make your play kits as amazing as possible with free deck boxes and weekly playmat giveaways, which, by the way, if you do give away playmats, try to make sure that they're shipped rolled and not folded, cause... yeesh. Problem is, these things are expensive. Expensive to make and expensive to ship. And as I said before, those costs get passed on to the stores, who might not be too enthusiastic dropping $100 a week for an organized play kit that they cannot sell and which may or may not get used. I mean, by all means, feel free to go nuts with whatever prize support you use in events you host personally, like at conventions or personal store visits and hype meets. You could give away cards, deck boxes, playmats, cell phones, all expenses, paid vacations. You're on the hook for all of it after all. Maybe I'll do a better video about event promotion and convention etiquette in the future, though GDC gave us a good chat on the subject over here, link in the description. But when it comes to widespread organized play where the costs get passed on to others, a gentler touch is called for and prize support has its limits. By far the simplest and most common form of prize support is promo cards. A little packet of cards is by far the most cost-effective form of organized play. Most know what to do with a packet labeled OP Tournament Kit that contains 17 copies of one card and 3 copies of another. These sorts of kits are so inexpensive to make that tossing them in for free with a store's order can be considered an effective sunk cost. Just an aside here, not sure how a lot of card game distributors do it, but a lot of companies tend to present order sweeteners like display stands for a large initial order, and things like countertop displays and organized play kits are a fantastic order incentive to include. On your initial set, tossing one in with every order unprompted, proportional to the amount purchased, is a great way to give a game store an answer to the folks who show up and ask if the game is gonna get organized play. I mean, they got sent a kit, might as well give it a try. And if after that they ask you for another kit, send them one. Just be sure they provide the receipts on subsequent kits with those photos I mentioned earlier. Back on the subject of promo cards, I talked about these a bit in my Rarity Iceberg video, and they can be a sticky subject. For example, Pokemon used to make a lot of exclusive promo cards like my Chain Reaction Eevee, a card that would still be considered really good today. However, like I detailed in my Rarity Iceberg video, this does mean there's a chance that you can make a very limited run of a card that is necessary for competitive play, like Tropical Beach. There's also a very good chance that this Eevee card is older than you, and if they ever made it legal for play again, I get an unfair advantage for just being alive in the late 90s. So modern procedure with these sorts of promo cards is to make them spiffier versions of cards in the current standard rotation, with alternate art, foil treatment, or special stamps added on. Now, these can be neat on their own. A standard card in a unique art style would certainly draw attention, but the problem here is that the cards still need to be appealing on their own. By far, Pokemon's most popular organized play rewards are the trainer cards and energy cards, things that are in demand but not scarce. Another neat thing Pokemon does is where you get a new stage of a Pokemon's evolution each week or month where you participate, where you basically build up towards a full set to get the final evolution. Something more recently phased out, much to my dismay, is that you could also get stamp cards that, through participation and earning points, lets you earn a gym badge, usually a patch or pin, as an added reward. This one right here honestly is a masterpiece. I like to think its title is Tempting Fate. While we're on the subject of Pokemon, there are largely two categories of organized play: League play and tournament play. League play, such as what gets seen with Pokemon, is a system where the focus is participation over winning. Basically, people show up to a store, do some trades, play some casual matches, and get a promo card just for showing up. Now, I know there will be loads of people out there who are just giggling at the idea of participation rewards. However, something to keep in mind: the first step to winning is showing up. It's a deliberately low-stakes environment where players of all ages and skill levels can enjoy themselves and get some neat prizes. Hardcore players also enjoy League play, as it gives them a low-stakes environment to test out strategies and trade for the cards they need to finish their deck, maybe buy some singles from behind the counter, while also helping out new players. Leagues are also an opportunity to have a bit of fun with your game, where you can include rule changes or new scenarios to play out for a day. These are more commonly done with miniatures games, as shifting the terrain or objective to match the rules is a bit easier. One thing I wish we could see is League kits for co-op games like Arkham Horror, where a League kit would be a source of a new campaign to play through with a new chapter occurring every week or so. Do it well enough and a store could build a collection of stories to play out weekly or monthly as reruns. Most organized play kits tend to ship quarterly, tied in with set releases, hence a good thing to throw in with a store order like I said before. Tournament kits tend to be one-shots where the contents of the kit are meant to be spent in a single event, while League kits are designed to last the entire quarter through a slow trickle of content, though monthly versions of both exist as well. A Pokemon League kit, for example, contains a slim and basic assortment of prize support meant to last for 3 months, where rewards are based on amount of monthly participation, with each player's first week each month earning them a promo card, with increased participation letting them earn a bonus by the end of the season. Others, like Dragon Ball, produce the promo cards as assortments which come in little blind packs, making it more of a booster design. Now that can be kind of frustrating, randomizing your promo cards like this, but it does have the beneficial effect of allowing you to stretch out an essentially identical kit across an entire month. For example, if this kit contained 32 of these blind packs, but you only get 8 players per week who show up, hey, that is 4 weeks worth of promo cards right there that can be easily used with every player. It's a simple kit, cheap to produce, cheap to ship, and with a lot of stamina, where the store has to do little more than provide space, hand out some cards, and snap a couple pictures. It's meant to encourage people to pop in from time to play. However, it is also admittedly a little boring. I mean, promo cards are nice, but they're just shiny versions of cards I can get normally. So what happens when we up the support stakes? When a lot of people think of fancier organized play rewards, they are talking about deck boxes, sleeves, acrylic tokens, and playmats. These are common tournament rewards, and this kind of accessory swag is seen as far more desirable than a promo card. They are also, however, a lot more expensive. Cards are cheap, they're flat, they pack flat, they ship flat, and they weigh next to nothing. However, when you get into the realm of acrylic tokens, deck boxes, or playmats, those are a lot more costly to produce and ship, expenses which, again, are usually passed on to the venue. There's a reason why the fancy prize kits are usually connected to a set release event. The stores that order these release event kits will get their money back on the built-in product sales those events carry. Still, there is no denying that useful kit like sleeves, boxes, and playmats are powerful incentives to get people to show up for organized play. Hence why it's generally not a bad idea to prepare an organized play kit to tie in with a set release, making it so that places can order these kits roughly the same time that that new set becomes available. Many kits can be put together with distributors as well if your goal goes further than promo cards, and those are also things that distributors can allocate. Out of most of the play kits I've gotten, the vast majority include a setup for between 8 and 32 players, with a set of prizes for a tournament's top 4, top 2, and winner, with the winner getting the most expensive item, usually a playmat, of which just one is provided. Not to say this is the only way to do it. Some stores extend these kits by giving a tournament winner choice of one of the prizes, with each week's winner taking one top prize until they run out. Again, their prerogative. Some slimmer kit designs have fancy versions of game components as prizes instead of boxes and mats, providing a slick upgrade as a play reward without making the kit huge and heavy. The sorts of things you get in a Pokemon Elite Trainer box with the dice and status tokens are the sorts of things that make good League prizes. And Pokemon has done dice as prizes at their more competitive events, though if you're going to do promotional dice, do make sure that they are tournament legal, which would be see-through with rounded edges. Prizes need to be just as practical as they are cool. Which does remind me of probably the worst kit I've gotten out of any of them, the Star Wars Destiny Spirits of Rebellion kit. The kit itself has a League format kinda like a fun fest where players perform a series of tasks to win a set of 3 promo cards. Now, on its own, this is great. It encourages people to participate and engage and is sort of a scavenger hunt to earn neat prizes, which on its surface is something that gamers tend to really enjoy. However, the problem comes from the cards themselves. They're special extended art promos written in the Star Wars font, which I think was something developed recently to increase overseas brand appeal. And yeah, that's certainly neat, but how am I supposed to play with cards that I can't read? I mean, I know exactly what this card is, it's overkill, but you get my point. I remember there was also this weird trend where they made textless promos, where it was the card printed with its full art but with no effect text on it anywhere. Which, again, is cool as you get the full scope of the art, but it also renders them useless as playable cards, especially if the original cards have complicated effect text. It's something kinda neat but completely impractical. So yes, another thing to keep in mind when developing this kind of prize support is its effect on practical function. I mean, cards that already lack effect text, like Blue Eyes White Dragon or most resource cards, would thrive with extended art versions, but for the most part, they're form over function to a negative degree. Now, the fact that these promo cards are written in a fictional language is certainly a problem, but the second problem with these promo cards is you see how these cards all have a list of numbers and symbols going down the sides? Well, that's in reference to their companion die, a companion die that is required in order to use these cards. Did the kit come with these dice? Of course not. Worse still is that there are plenty of Destiny cards that actually do not require any companion dice at all, which obviously would have made for better prizes. This has the effect of rendering the contents of this play kit full-on useless. Even if you did know what the card says, the missing companion dice renders them truly unplayable. Another big problem with a lot of the Fantasy Flight promo kits I got is that they appear to have different dimensions from the standard cards for sale. Kind of a big whoops, as it makes it easy to tell where certain cards are in your deck if you don't use card sleeves. This was likely caused by having their base sets and promo sets produced at different print shops, and some of my Fantasy Flight products even state that quality can be an issue for their more print-on-demand products. Still a form of QA to keep an eye out for. However, by far the most extravagant of my organized play kits is this Legend of the Five Rings Stronghold kit, admittedly incomplete in this edition, but it is a truly enormous kit, which is designed to act as both an enormous 32-player League kit, but also a major tournament kit, loaded to the gills with weird stuff. We're talking promo cards, playmats, metal tokens, plastic reminder cards, acrylic dials, woodcut markers. Yeah, it's a lot. This is no doubt an expensive kit, one made for the game's release to try to generate as much hype as possible, and maybe a bit too gaudy for its own good. Not to mention it's a kit from a major company bringing back one of the longest running card games of all time, so some opulence isn't maybe out of the ordinary, but the fact that none of their other games have ever used these sorts of kits outside of like legit state championships should probably tell you something. I mean, not even the Game of Thrones championship set gets this gaudy. Well, except maybe for the plaque. Although, one thing of note that's interesting about this kit is the patronage card. I don't know how many of you are familiar with store sweeteners, like rush packs or buy a box promos designed to incentivize purchases inside an actual brick and mortar store rather than from a major retailer or online. But a patronage card is meant to be that similar kind of reward, which is tied to an organized play kit. By tying it to the organized play kit, it does guarantee that it will wind up in a brick and mortar store rather than an online retailer. Giveaway cards are actually a good idea in general. The best way to get somebody interested in your card game is to get your cards into their hands, and a little card slipped in with anybody who shows up to the store to buy something is a fantastic first step to getting them to try out your game. But yeah, these Stronghold kits are at least $100, which is enough to basically offset sales margins, and I'm sure it did for enough stores that these aren't exactly commonplace anymore. I mean, could you imagine if a store dropped $100 for this massive space-hogging kit and nobody showed up to play? So yeah, most tournament kits tend to be a lot more restrained and low risk. They have a decent stack of promo cards, a handful of useful game accessories, and maybe something fancy like a mat for the winner. Some keep it slim by limiting it to a few acrylic game tokens on top of the cards, while others have gone so far as to include the shipping box as one of the prizes, in an act that I think gets a little too cute. But the strangest one I've seen comes to us, again, from Legend of the Five Rings, the version made by AEG this time. It's a pretty typical set, with a handful of promo cards and some deck storage tins, but the bizarre thing is that this set shipped in a metal lunchbox! And it's like this huge behemoth of a lunchbox. Is this like the lunchbox that the mafiosi kid brings to school?
Listen, I know it smells like whiskey and gunpowder, but I assure you, the only thing in that lunchbox is one really big hoagie sandwich.
Seriously, why did AEG ever shift away from cardboard? So that's how one can assemble a basic kit to encourage stores to support your game. It's just as much about presenting these stores with something cheap and simple enough to execute as it is providing a draw for players, and finding the proper place to land that balance is its own bit of work. However, when it comes to organized play, a lot of people think of the sorts of things the largest card games get up to: regional events, Grand Prix, and World Championships with big, often monetary prizes. In fact, the reason I think a lot of games hesitate on rolling out organized play is because they think such a system is required, which, again, it isn't. Though, do remember, events you host yourself can have layouts and prizes as extravagant as your budget allows, and can work as a sort of World Championship arrangement. A lot of games do this, limiting the big shindigs to cross-country gaming conventions or stores with high sales volume with a final gathering that the winners of the previous tournaments get flown out to. This is probably the peak budgetary ability of a game that isn't run by a major corporation. But back to the subject of high-grade organized play. This is not something to step into lightly. After all, there is no sense in hosting a Grand Prix without an audience. It sounds like a cool aspiration to have a point system and leaderboards and hardcore official scoring events with big monetary prizes at the end, but it is also a massive headache across the board, and not just financially. When it comes to things like what Pokemon and Dragon Ball have with official player numbers and accounts, it, like the request for photos, serves more the purpose of being an accountability thing, where game stores will have to send in a sheet of player numbers and tournament results to prove that they are using their kits rather than taking photos. Participation and winner points are also a common thing attached to these, but this is where the migraines really dig in. The big thing is data entry. Even if a simple sign-up sheet is enough for players to jot down their personal account numbers to show they participated, somebody, either whoever's working at the store running the event or whoever you put in charge of event management, is gonna have to type those numbers in somewhere to keep track of everything, let alone the sort of system you'd have to put in place to keep all this stuff together, which is an aspect of computer programming and design I can't even get into understanding. Adding tournament victory points actually makes it worse, as a whole new set of accountability factors comes into play to prevent players from buying up point cards, or for players to pool their points like Burma Shave cans to game the system when using a system like Dragon Ball Super, which has scannable cards. The more cogs you add to the machine, the more places that machine can break down. So a point system like this really isn't something to get into until your game is doing numbers large enough that you can hire some people to keep tabs on this sort of thing. Not to say a point system that can be redeemed for small rewards is out of the question. At least in that case, gaming the system doesn't manipulate rankings. Not sure why these fell out of fashion, but redemption programs equivalent to box top prizes used to be a mainstay of the industry, where people save pack wrappers or insert cards and send them in to earn promo cards or special prizes. But this is something I think a lot of people need to understand about organized play. A more bare-bones approach with relatively hands-off events and cards for prizes might be all that a fledgling game can handle in its inception. And, like I keep saying, that's fine. Think of these sorts of card games as like indie video game developers. You wouldn't put the same expectations onto them as you would a AAA company. If a game is put out by a major publisher, one with plenty of distribution and manufacturing ties, by all means you should feel that a more aggressive budget for organized play should come with it right out of the gate. But a first-time dev dropping an untested game into an already saturated market likely doesn't have the sheer capital to launch a similar endeavor, in which case the quality of the game and what support can be done matters a whole lot more. Still, to bring this all back around, it is the responsibility of the producers to keep people excited for the game and its future. Hopefully I've demonstrated some cost-effective ways to cultivate a store-centric community that's as easy for them to implement as it is for you. An online presence and fan support are important, but at the end of the day, you've made the game and you need to get people together to play that game in order for it to thrive. Keep that in mind and you too can build a better card game. Join us next time on Errata Text.